Good morning, majority. It is an honor to be here today. And yes, this is indeed the day the Lord has made. And I come here with a heart full of joy to know that there are people of God who gathered here this morning. And as Reverend Frazier said, reminded us that we take nothing for granted. But this sense of community that is so strong here, I thank you for coming together. And also, Reverend Harvey, thank you for being the spiritual leader that this community has needed to get us through the tough times and through the pandemic. And now, in the aftermath, as we're coming through it, the concerns of people about rising crime and their safety as they start to see horrific images every single day that just seem unrelentless. So I thank you and First Lady Frazier for being on the front lines to help protect God's people in these circumstances. We also have an army of God in this front row here, and individuals who use their faith, and that faith has brought them to public service like it has myself, by our own individual ways to serve our Lord. And I want to thank tremendous leaders and champions for this community like Senator Leroy Comrie. He is an incredible voice for the people he represents. He loves his district. I've been out here many times, and he is relentless in pressing for your needs, and I always have to say yes. So Senator Comrie, great to see you. Also, other partners that we have, our borough president, Donovan Richards, is here as well. He has been working with me since I first became lieutenant governor over 8 years ago, that everyone here has, and I thank you for leading such an incredibly diverse but fascinating place. And that is the Borough of Queens. Also in Albany, he looks a little tired. The legislative session wrapped up probably, 24 hours ago. I don't think he got a lot of sleep, but Clyde Minnell, an incredible leader here as well. And we did reference the fact that New York's first gentleman is here, my husband of 38 years. Let's give a round of applause. As I reflect what I want to say in this moment, I can't help but keep thinking about images that I saw in my hometown of Buffalo just a few weeks ago. My husband Bill and I live 10 minutes where the massacre of people shopping in a place whose name is Tops Friendly Markets. Friendly Markets. It's almost like the neighborhood barbershop. This is the place that people gathered and met their friends and were shopping for birthday cakes and all sorts of innocent reasons to walk in that store on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Buffalo and to encounter an individual with such hate in his heart. And you have to wonder how that happened. And it affects me to this day, and I've turned to God, and I was worshiping in a Baptist church literally the morning after I had to go back to Buffalo for that purpose. And we all gathered, we prayed, we cried. And I was reminded that the scripture tells us the Lord is near the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit. So I've turned to him in this time and says, Lord, I'm brokenhearted, but as I put back together my heart, because part of it was so angry, and I knew that was not right, but I was angry about what happened to those innocent people. But the other part of my heart became stronger and more committed to doing what's right. And using that moment in our history to say, how will we be judged? How will we have answered this time in our state and our nation? When it seems to me that there are those who believe that the rights of gun owners are more important than the civil right to stay alive. And that can no longer be what happens in our state or in our nation. And before we bury the last individual from Buffalo, an 86-year-old woman who was the mother of our former fire chief for all of Buffalo up there, who worked in Homeland Security for me as governor. We were burying her, but the day before, the killing of children had just happened in Texas. So the nation eyes all go to Texas. And people, we seem to have this short attention span. Well, there'll always be another episode, so you become desensitized to it, and you get a little bit immune, and you say, well, that's how it is here. And I stand here to say, as your governor, it does not have to be that way. We cannot accept that. God would not want us to accept that as the status quo and throw up our hands and say we can't do anything about the illegal guns. Well, guess what? We are, and we did. Tomorrow, these leaders will join me as I sign 10 pieces of legislation that are just so common sense. You say, how were they allowed to stand as they were before? We're an 18-year-old living in a very rural part of our state, 3 hours from here. And I want you to know something. He chose Buffalo in his writings, his manifesto, because he was looking for the largest black population within a drive of his home. It was 3 hours. 3 hours to Buffalo. You know what's about 3 hours and 15 minutes? Right where you're sitting. I mean, this could have been this community as well. And that is the fear that people are now living with. Will we be next? And that is paralyzing. But that is why we're saying an 18-year-old who could walk in after his birthday to a gun shop, and after a very quick little check, it's almost worthless, walk out with an AR-15 designed for the battlefields in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. That cannot be the world we live in. And when I sign that bill into law tomorrow, it will no longer be the law of the land here in the state where no 18-year-old can get their hand on a weapon of destruction like that. And we have many other elements. That 18-year-old also drove across the border to Pennsylvania, 10 minutes from his house, and was able to buy what they call a high-capacity magazine. It means they could fire off 30 bullets without even having to stop. We have to do more to stop the flow of illegal guns and ammunition from coming into our state. And therefore, the answer is, we'll do our best. I'll stand at the bar. I'll stand there myself and stop this if I could. I've got the state police energized. We're working with law enforcement to stop it. I have 9 states coming together to stop illegal guns. But wouldn't it be a lot easier if we had a national common sense gun policy out of Washington, D.C.? Well, I know we have champions, people like our Congressman Greg Meeks, who's standing up for us. There's a lot of common sense. People are saying, yes, just do it. But there are barriers, there are obstructionists. There's a handful of people who are saying, no, no, no. The rights of gun owners and the right to have a weapon is more important than your right to stay alive. Okay. We disagree with that. We're changing the law, and I'm proud of that. But I'm also not going to take my eye off the fact that while we're focused on these mass casualty shootings, just as we were down in a beautiful church in Charleston, South Carolina a few years ago, or another church, Parkland in Florida, but it's happened, Texas, Columbine, Sandy Hook, Buffalo, all those lists of names, they take away from the fact that our young people, particularly young men of color, are losing their lives every day to gun violence in our streets. That is also top of mind for me and our elected officials as we figure out ways to stop the flow of the guns coming into the neighborhood, first of all. But what are the influences that are so powerful on these young people that they'll walk away, and they may have been raised in a church. They might have had a good education, maybe, maybe not, but what draws them to the attraction of being in a gang when they might feel that that's where they're going to get respect? And people treat them better because they walk around with a gun. We have to change that outcome as well. Otherwise, we're just going to keep losing our sons and our children to gun violence in our streets of New York and all over the state. So we have to come up with a better plan. Yes, we'll get the guns out there, but community influencers, former gang members who've seen the light, who want to come back and change their perspective and help a young person not make the same decision they did. We've tripled the amount of money going into our community gun violence disruptor programs. We're going to take it right where it starts. Not wait till they're 18 years old, but go after the 11-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, the 13s, before they start giving up hope. And to give them something to live for. And let them know there's people who care about them. And the church and the clergy are so powerful in this movement. I mean, they are the trusted voices that I rely on as well. But to continue looking at the root causes and the circumstances that people grow up in, and they just say, why not? I know I probably won't live to my 25th birthday, so why not? That cannot happen. We want all of God's children to know that their life has value and it has a purpose. And we as adults have a moral responsibility, as elected leaders say, moral responsibility to show them the way. So we'll focus on better education and programs for them after school so they have better influences. And ultimately, that they'll have not just a job waiting for them, but a career where they can build their lives and have their own families and help lift them up, because that is not just the American dream, that is the New York dream. When we celebrate our diversity as a strength, we lean hard into it, especially in a place like Queens, and we can do that because I saw that dream unfold in my own family. My grandparents left extreme poverty in a little island called Ireland. And when they came here, there were no jobs. Grandpa was a migrant farm worker, then they were domestic servants. Then my grandpa found life at an American icon, a steel plant. He made steel. My dad made steel and lifted them up, and my dad got a degree, a college degree, while he lived in a trailer park with my mom, and everything changed because of that degree. Everybody deserves that same opportunity to get either degrees, college education, or get training in the jobs that are there for the long term. The good paying jobs where I don't see enough women and I don't see enough people from communities of color in those jobs, whether it's technology, the green energy jobs. There's so many jobs where you say, I want to hire anybody, but there's a disconnect. I'm focused on communities like this, say all these kids have an opportunity to not just survive, but to thrive. That's what we do as children of God. We look out for each other. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, you're doing unto me. That is what drives me every single day, and I thank you